It's pretty wild to think about, but what if a single glance, just one little moment, could completely change everything? We're about to dive into two ancient fables that talk about exactly that, this hidden power that's packed into our everyday lives. So I want to ask you this, straight up. Can one single moment, one feeling, one little glance really change the entire course of a lifetime? I know it sounds like a huge stretch, right? But let's just see what these incredible stories have to say. All right, let's get into our first story. It starts way back in ancient India. And it's a simple one, really. It's about a girl, a broom, and the Buddha. And it all kicks off on what seemed like a totally, completely ordinary day. So I want you to picture this. It's super early in the morning, everything's quiet and still. Back then, there was this tradition where young unmarried women would get up before anyone else to sweep the entryway to their family's home. Just a simple, peaceful daily ritual. Okay, so on one of these mornings, while this young woman is doing her regular chore, something extraordinary happens. It's a complete interruption to her everyday routine. The Buddha himself just happens to be walking right past her home. And in that one instant, she sees him, and her heart is just flooded with this pure, profound joy. She stops sweeping. She stops everything. She's not thinking. She's not analyzing. She is just completely lost in this one single happy moment, totally present. But this is where the story takes a bit of a sad, unexpected turn. Her life, as it turns out, was actually very short. Not long after this beautiful, fleeting encounter, she passed away. And you might be thinking, well, I guess that's the end of her story then. But her story was so far from over. Her journey continued in the most incredible way. So first, yes, her life on Earth ended. But then, she was reborn in a heavenly realm. And what's so amazing is she knew why. She understood with total clarity that it was the direct result of that single joyful glance at the Buddha. I mean, can you imagine? Just overwhelmed with gratitude, she then returns to hear the Buddha's teachings. And through them, she ultimately attains wisdom. All from one tiny moment? Wow, that is an incredible outcome. But it definitely brings up a pretty big question, doesn't it? I mean, this worked for a simple, good-hearted young woman. But what if the person wasn't good? What if their past was filled with just terrible deeds? Does the same principle even apply then? Okay, let's jump to our second story and see how this all plays out in a much more extreme situation. The main character of our second story is a shocking contrast to that young girl. We're talking about a man who had taken the lives of tens of thousands of people, a mass murderer. It doesn't get much darker than that. So one day, this man sees someone, it's not the Buddha this time, but it's one of his enlightened disciples. And incredibly, the exact same thing happens. Just like the girl, his heart fills with that same pure, focused joy. He looks at the disciple, just observing him from head to toe, not just once, but 7 times over. And this is where the core principle just becomes crystal clear when we put them side by side. You have the sweeping girl, simple life, one joyful look, reborn in heaven once. Then you have the mass murderer, a life of horrific violence, 7 joyful looks, and he's reborn in heaven 7 times. Whoa. So you're probably thinking, how is that even possible? It's not like his past actions were just, poof, erased. The idea here is all about karma, that universal law of cause and effect. The power of his positive state of mind in that moment was so incredibly potent that its result, its good karma, actually ripened first before the consequences of his terrible past could even catch up to him. This specific state of mind actually has a name. In the original texts, it's called Huanxi Xin, which we can translate as a joyful heart. But this isn't just about feeling happy like you got a good parking spot. It's a very specific state of pure, focused, and reverent happiness that's directed towards a source of wisdom or great inspiration. Okay, so these are two really fascinating fables, right? But what can they actually teach us in our own lives today? So what's the big takeaway for us? Well, first off, it's that a moment of pure, joyful reverence has an almost unbelievable power. But here's the most radical part. This power is for everyone. It doesn't matter what your past looks like. The stories also show us that this effect gets even stronger when it's pointed at a source of inspiration. And I think the biggest lesson of all is this. Our state of mind, right now, in this very moment, can be profoundly transformative. It can literally shape our future in ways we can barely even imagine. And that brings us to the end. I really want to leave you with a question to carry with you. The girl found her moment in a chance encounter. The killer found his in the presence of a saint. So the question for us is, where can you find a moment of pure, focused joy today?